Welcome back to the Self-Esteem and Confidence Mindset podcast with me, Johnny Pardo. Today, I welcome my friend Annette to the show, where we're going to be talking about self-confidence, self-care, and many, many more things. So just a quick introduction to Annette, and then we'll dive in today. So Annette is from New York and is known as the Identity Illuminator. She is a certified elite neuroencoding specialist and brain health trainer who inspires people to thrive and overcome challenges that keep them feeling stuck. As a founder of Passionately Living LLC, she offers coaching programs as a guide in discovering someone's success formula to getting the results in what they want. She has helped many people think better, get more done, lead others, get further faster, smile more, and skyrocket their joy and confidence. Awesome, Annette. It's great to have you on the show today. So thanks for being here. So yeah, tell us a little bit maybe about your story and actually what gets you like so inspired to like help people in this way, like discover their confidence, their joy, and get them out of feeling stuck.
Well, thank you first for allowing me this time and this honor to be here with you. And my backstory, it is pretty, life happens and experiences that happen, and some of us don't understand or know at the time what's happening and how it's affecting us. So for me, as a teenager, I started having, I call them episodes, not knowing what was happening. And it was a span of 10 years between teenage and young adult, where I was suffering from anxiety and panic attacks. And my way of dealing with things is more of avoidance at the time. An episode would happen, a panic attack. At the time, it wasn't as mainstream. You didn't hear so much about mental health, mental wellness, anxiety, all that. So I would go to the doctor and say, oh, this terrible, terrible thing happened. I couldn't breathe. My heart once jumped out of my chest. I felt horrible. And she would do the normal medical tests and say, we don't find anything. Everything's fine. So I would just say, okay, and then brush it under the rug. And again, within a time frame of 10 years, it would happen sporadically. But in my mid-20s, I lost my mother and a deep depression set in. So anxiety, panic attacks, and depression was like a bombshell. And but again, with the way I was managing it, was I was burying myself in work and school, keeping myself busy. And as a professional, I looked the part, dressed the part, spoke the part, but no one knew what was happening inside, the internal turmoil I was dealing with. So with that, the mind and the body can only take but so much. So over time, I ended up falling into having I don't want to say a nervous breakdown, but it was somewhat of a breakdown where the anxiety was overwhelming, the panic attacks were more often, and I ended up visiting the emergency room more often until someone in one of those visits said, hey, have you ever heard of anxiety? And at that time, I never knew what it was, never heard the term before. And that led me into having an answer now to what was happening. And that led me into a path of speaking to a professional, not wanting to take medication, wanting to know what my options were. And again, educating myself, learning more. And that led me to personal development, into better self-care. And here I am years later, where I just kept stacking. So taking that path that I was on, understanding what that was for me, and now being able to help others on that journey.
Oh, wow. Well, thanks for sharing that, Annette, and obviously all your journey of going through feeling those different like emotions, those feelings, and now you're actually helping other people with it. So with the anxiety, when you sort of like started to discover, were there any like tools you found useful to sort of help you? And do you think it's you know, specific to the individual in terms of what works from working with people?
Yes, I don't think there's a one shoe fits, fits all. It's more of understanding what's happening with the individual, what's their way of thinking, what experiences might be the trigger, helping them understand that, being able to take that control back, because when you don't understand what's happening and at the moment, you go into this panic, hence panic attack, because it just elevates, because you get the fear sets in. And if you don't understand what you can do in the moment, so it's like a training. You can reprogram, right? You can train yourself to understand what's the onset and then how to avoid it, versus being in it. Once you're in it, then it's hard to get out of it. So understanding all of that is very, very helpful.
Yeah, it sounds like kind of being like more aware a little bit of what's going on for you. That sounds like. And I know you mentioned earlier that you're in this like work environment of like getting on with work, and as well as like looking the part, people have no idea what's going on. Do you find there's a way to, is there anything you do now that you find really helpful to connect with yourself? Because I know for a lot of us, certainly me, I'm guilty of this from time to time, that we can get caught in this busyness, and then put these feelings away and just get on with life. And it may not be work, it may be something, not a bit more harmful or whatever, to distract ourselves. Do you find personally there's a way to connect with yourself a little bit more?
Yes, absolutely. There are a few things that come to mind right off the bat. There's the self-care, understanding. We have, as you know, the mirror exercise, where there's that love for yourself, and connection, necessarily connecting with others, but that connection being something that elevates you, right? So that fills your spirit, whether it's with a loved one or even a pet. I also connect with nature. That's something I do. There's the breath work. So literally, we all like, oh, breathing, but breathing is so important. How you breathe from the diaphragm versus up here. You want to have those deep breaths. And there's a technique that I help people with. And I can just tell you really quick. It's inhale to the count of 4, hold 1 second, and out for 8, right? And that you just do that for a few minutes, and it just brings you, right? And then there's meditation, and some people believe that meditation is difficult because they can't tame their thoughts, right? The racing thoughts, versus understanding that meditation can be done at any moment, whether it's sitting in quiet, whether it's meditating to music, whether it's just sitting still in something that helps you go within. And again, just the breathing alone is a form of meditation. I also love to, I use a tool. I help as the identity illuminator in helping people go within and self-discovery. I use a formula called the Smile Success Formula, and being able to master your moments is one of those, right? Being more present versus that worried about sitting and thinking about the past, and then always, again, your mind races into the future. How can you be more present? That's another big piece that I believe we can use to calm ourselves and feel even more joy, right? The simple act of smiling, right? Smiling for no reason. You don't have to have a reason to smile. It's a facial expression. And that automatically is like a boost, right? So yeah, there's a lot of techniques hacks that we can use in any moment.
So you've given us some good ones there. And And certainly I love the smile one. Our mentor obviously always goes on about that one, Dr. Joseph McClendon. Always the smile, look what I'm doing here. Love that one. Yeah. Oh, well, thanks again for sharing some of those tips. Have you found like there's certain environments perhaps, or perhaps like people you've been around where it's changed how you felt in terms of like maybe more anxious or less anxious? Because I know I have. I just wondered about your experience.
Yes, absolutely. Working in the corporate world for many years, and as an accountant in my profession, it's literally those deadlines, those demands, things coming at you from all directions, wanting to be, have the work produce accuracy. So it's that, like, I don't know, maybe sometimes people walk into work and they have this like heaviness, right? They don't want to be there. The work is so demanding. And then they have their personal life on their mind, right? While they're at work and they're trying to balance it all. So in those environments where you might even have co-workers or a supervisor that's really on you, and you just have that tension, that constant tension, and that stacks to your anxiousness. It's something where you want to perform, but then you have those demands and you have those deadlines and you're just so much under pressure, and then you have the demands of life, so you just feel like it's an overwhelm. It's a constant feeling of overwhelm. And in my corporate profession, there were times during certain parts of the year where that was, a big, like, you have sleepless nights thinking about, oh my God, like, am I going to be able to make this deadline? And that's where self-care is extremely important, and setting boundaries.
I was going to ask you if there's anything you would guide on that one, but yeah, like the self-care seems. I guess I know from my sort of experience, there's some like environments you can remove yourself from like these not so good situations. Maybe it's a social situation or something like that where it doesn't make you feel your best, or it might not be anxiety, but it might be a mix of other things. But yeah, sometimes you've got a day-to-day role, right? It's kind of like what you're living. And I've been in a project management environment for many years, and it can impact you. And I really like what you said about the self-care there, because sometimes life, or even as an entrepreneur, you can have like deadlines and anxiety and things like that as well. So it's not like I used to have the expectation I get to a point in life and it's like that's not going to exist. Very young and naive, I think, at that point, but it's it's always going to happen. So the internal work I found is really, really helpful in terms of
And
that.
one of the things I would do is at lunchtime, I would find a quiet place. And there was a church, right? In New York, I worked in New York City for many years. And
Wow.
I remember I used to walk. There was a beautiful church right around the corner. And I would go and sit in quietness, and just like, and then be able to go back to work and feel that relaxed moment, have that moment to myself, and be able to go back into the environment. Then there was Central Park was nearby too.
Oh, miss it.
I would walk. I would make sure that I had, whether it was 10-minute walk, and that it just helps so much. These little things that you can do for yourself throughout the day in those kind of environments. Remove yourself a few minutes and you're able to go back in stronger.
Yeah. And finding, I guess it's finding what's right for you, right? If you I find kind of something someone might say I find more difficult. But yeah, I like the suggestion of taking some time and just connecting with something. I remember doing that at work as well, like just going into the park and even doing some writing and things like that of my own adventure. So especially Central Park, love that place. And been for years. Beautiful. Yeah, love it. So yeah, Annette, I was gonna ask you to touch a little bit on the just on your experience again, going back to it when you were having some of these feelings of feeling a bit depressed, you mentioned, and anxiety, because I know this is something, I've experienced myself, and I know lots of people are challenged with this. Did you find that it was kind of fluctuating between one or the other, or you go through like long spells of feeling anxious and then long spells of feeling down? Just wondered if you were able to expand a little bit on your experience there.
Well, I believe the anxiousness came from different things that happen in childhood, depending on what environments you grow up in, you're exposed to different things, and everything affects our nervous system, right? um, you know, children children are like sponges, right? They pick up everything from their environment. So then the panic attacks, I believe, scientifically, right? Neuroscience is, what was I thinking? It's that fight or flight. Like you're literally in this, there is no real harm, but because of your own thoughts, you are literally putting your body in that distress. Then the depression came about because of the loss of my mother. And instead of dealing with that loss, now that I know as a neuroencoding specialist how to deal with grief and how to help kind of get those thoughts out, back then, instead of dealing with it, I buried it and was just busy. I think I became more busier than I ever been in my life. And I was working full time. I enrolled in school full time on purpose because I literally sat across the um, school executive and said, she's like, what do you want? I said, I just need to keep my mind busy. And she said, okay, what do you want to study? And I was like, I don't know. I'm great with numbers. I worked in a bank, et cetera, et cetera. So she said, okay, finance or accounting. And I was like, accounting. And she's like, that's very difficult at night. And I said, I don't care. I'll do it. And that's why I just became very, very busy. And instead of dealing with the pain and the loss, then I would find myself, I remember I was working the New York Mercantile Exchange, right? Down by close to Wall Street. And I remember I had like a corner unit. And I remember making sure that no one can see the tears flowing down my face while I worked. And that it was just like I was not managing my grief. And that led into, and not speaking to anyone about it. And that just led into a deep depression. And when I realized what I was doing to myself, then it was those conversations of, have you ever felt like this? Did this ever happen to you? And when I allowed myself that gift and that freedom to start those conversations, it was a game changer where I knew I wasn't alone. I knew that other people dealt with it. And if it wasn't them, it was someone they knew. And it just gave me this sense of freedom of being able to manage better and know that there is a way out.
Wow. No, I'm glad you're able to connect with other people in that way. And yeah, it sounds like you were trying to distract yourself, and I can totally relate to that. And yeah, just even like unconsciously, before I was in the whole world of personal growth, I wasn't even aware that, until I started even doing deeper work that I've been doing the last year or so, not even aware of some of the habits we do unconsciously. Personally, for me, that just kept me like busy, rather than like processing grief or traumatic events and things like that. And it was just like, get on and move on. So no, it's really good to hear how you were able to process it and then like start moving forward and have some of those realizations. one of the final points I just wanted to touch on with you was because it's really, really a common thing talked about on questions I've had in my Facebook group and on here. It's about like self-talk. And I wanted to touch on that a little bit because our self-talk, if not managed correctly, can be very, very negative, right? It can be not very nice. Some of the things we say to ourselves, I've heard people say to themselves, even people close to me, you would never say to your worst enemy sometimes, right? Did you find a difference in your self-talk over the years with yourself as well?
Yes, absolutely. So again, one of my acronyms in the SMILE success formula is internal. I stands for internal dialogue. What are you saying to yourself? And our brain goes to the negative more. You have to train it, literally train it to, it's not always positive, and you're going to have this happy-go-lucky and always be happy. No, but being able to catch yourself, stop yourself, be mindful of your thoughts. What am I thinking? Dr. Amen speaks about automatic negative thoughts, the ants, right? Think of ants. So being able to tame those ants, to kill the ants. And as Joseph says, kill the monster while it's a baby, right? Those moments of awareness. What am I thinking? Why am I thinking this? Is it true? And then replacing that with something that is true or more uplifting, or even having those affirmations and working. That's why I work with people with the identity statement. If you create an empowering identity statement, that's something you can say to yourself over and over, even if you don't believe it just yet, right? It's who you inspire to be. So.
Love it. It reminded me of the ants as well. Automatic negative thoughts. So Annette, thank you so much for like everything you've shared today. Been really, really valuable. Just before we close off, is there maybe a final point or points that you wanted to share? And also, where can the listener find you if they want to find out a little bit more about you or your work?
I just want to wrap up with saying anyone who is stuck, just know that there are options, and putting in the work and investing in yourself is one of the best decisions you can make. And whatever it is you need help with, or even if you feel like you're at a plateau and you want to get to that next level, there are tools and strategies that we can implement to get you there, closing that gap to what you want, to where you are, to what you want, right? And as far as being able to find me, Annette Ramrattan on all social platforms. So the spelling of the last name is Ramrattan. And my email is AnnetteRamrattan@gmail.com. And yeah, you can send me a message on social media.
Awesome. We'll be sure to link that up in the notes as well. So once again, a big thank you, Annette, for being here today.
Thank you, John. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Yeah, pleasure too. So that concludes our episode for today. And remember, you are in control of your own self-esteem and confidence.